Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to be taking a full in-depth look at Red Guardian like we did for Yelena, but unlike Yelena, we've already built up Red Guardian, and I've done a little bit of testing with him in World Boss with the new uniform. We used the Star Agent Crystals to purchase his uniform, and we got it all the way to Heroic because I had a bunch of bio selectors, so I had a bunch of leftover bios for him. And I gotta say, his icon actually looks pretty cool, his Red Guardian modern icon, but then he actually looks really lame here. And I think the shield looks kind of low res, but maybe not. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. He looks like a weird knockoff superhero, but he's a super villain. Now, going over the build, I actually have given him a lot. You can see we're in the top 130 rank-wise. The HP is not actually 49,000. I am using his leadership, so just keep that in mind. It's actually a little bit lower. We've got the bare bones here on the Uru just to cap out his ignore defense and his skill cooldown. So there you can see about half a percentage point off for cooldown, but otherwise we're fine. We got the fourth gear to crit damage. Now he doesn't actually get any crit rate or crit damage buffs from his passives or his skills. So that's going to be the big thing that Red Guardian is lacking if you're going to build him for PvE. And I honestly think as a free-to-play option, I don't think he's going to have much value at all for PvP. Very few combat-type characters these days have any value for PvP, and he lacks, you know, penetration, he lacks healing, he lacks a lot of things that would make him viable for PvP. So I think he's purely a Shadowland / PvE character. Don't get your hopes up too high, but at the same time, recognize that you have a pretty solid character that's being given for free. He's got super armor all defense, so you don't have to worry about building him with guard break. And he's got an above average leadership for the percentage compared to other characters. We've got Power of Angry Hulk because I do think he has fairly long animations. You want to get through those animations faster, and the triple chaotics give you more HP if you roll them that way. I gave him a CTP of energy. I think this is way too rich, way too expensive for him, but it's what I went with because I have a bunch of them, and he's got a couple of hits. You know, some of his skills have quite a few hits. He's got a couple of hits with a lot of chain damage, so that could work out. But, you know, I wouldn't go as far as a CTP for Red Guardian. I think, unlike Yelena, he is really going to fall into the category of, like, you know, a better version of Swordmaster. I think that's probably the best case scenario for him, so you can look at it that way. But the nice thing is, the flexible thing about Red Guardian is that you go from villain to hero. So we actually are going to test him with and without his uniform, but it is good to note for especially free-to-play players and newer players, you're going to get a lot more flexibility out of him for Shadowland because he can do any villain stage in addition to being able to do all of the combat hero stages. And then he's got 25% damage reduction, which just helps you stay alive. Again, if it was damage reduction against heroes, it might give him some spark of hope for PvP, but you know, the fact that it's just flat damage means that he's probably not going to be very good. But yeah, we're going to test him out in both situations and see what is up with the big old Red Guardian. Now, the thing is, in testing him out, we're going to have to broach the topic of World Boss being changed. So we are going to test him without strikers, which is what I usually do for character testing anyways. We're going to drop down to a stage 40. He's pretty good, but yes, World Boss has become more difficult. You have to rely a lot more, I would say like 90+%, you have to rely on the actual characters on your team. Now, that does open up the strategy of World Boss for, you know, different kinds of team compositions that you might not be used to, but you really cannot rely on the strikers. You can't even bring more than one striker that does the same sort of thing, especially when it comes to all defense down. So we'll have that conversation once I have more information to give you, but for right now, we're not going to use strikers, partially in order to get a better, accurate read on his damage and his how good he is, but also because you know, we're all wandering in the dark right now trying to figure out what to do as far as the strikers. Now, we can't use, you know, I did have this, we cannot use this at all, so you got to be careful with Red Guardian. When I take off his uniform, none of these characters become useful for him, so we're going to bring along Valkyrie. Not as good as Phil Coulson, but we'll keep it, you know, we'll keep it the same for both, and then we will bring along just your standard, you know what, let's go with actually Crescent, 60% physical attack for combat type characters. Let's go in stage 40 and see what's up. I love this training mode. I gotta say, it makes it so much more relaxing when I stream or when I do something else because I don't have to worry about pausing. I don't have to worry about, oh no, I use this character and then someone asks me, oh, can you try this character on a different stage? I can do that now. I can try any character on any stage. I really gotta say the training mode is dope as hell. Now, let's get into it. I don't have very high hopes for Red Guardian, but let's make the most out of him. So I think you start off with 5. I think his 5 is the same. You want to proc on 5, and then you want to do 3. Now, because he's not going to get the accumulation on 3, you just go into 4 for the all defense down, and then back into 5. So he's actually got a pretty nice rotation. You do get the immunity still, yeah. But he's got a pretty nice rotation. So the rotation basically is start with the 5, end with the 4. And you use 3 after 5 for the immunity, because otherwise he is in danger. Now, there are a few things to note. I mean, he's a fairly straightforward character to play. So there, okay. This is a problem here. I'm dead. Okay. Cool. Good start. So there are a few things to note for Red Guardian. He's not going to blow you away. He does have his shortcomings as a combat type character without healing. That's usually the biggest thing for combat type characters, is like if they don't have healing, they have to hit like an absolute truck in order to be relevant, because they're just missing all of those other things that other classes have. You can't skill cancel with combat types. You know, the design for combat types in general is a bit lacking creativity. So here's the first problem with Red Guardian, is at the end of his 5th skill, he comes out of an iframe. So that puts you in a really dangerous position because you're face tanking. The second problem with Red Guardian is that at the end, Jesus, I just took a whole bunch of damage. The second problem with Red Guardian is at the end of his 4th skill is when the all defense down happens. So you can see that you have a bunch of problems stacking up because they decided to put skills at the end of animations, or they decided to put skill effects at the end of animations, and that, you know, leaves you in a situation where you need that high attack speed, but you need to pay like super close attention when you're playing as him, because if you make a mistake, you're just gonna get one-shotted because you're face to face with the boss. You're face tanking at all times. So he's almost like a poor man's Captain America, I would say. And his 5th skill is nice. It's fun. It hits pretty hard. The all defense down has some nice, he's got some nice synergy on the all defense down, but man, it's risky. It's so risky. And the other thing that you'll see that you really have to pay attention to is that I wish they had made his full 5th skill an iframe rather than making the end, because at the end of the 5th skill, he kicks his shield. And what happens when he kicks his shield is, because he's out of iframe, Proxima jumps back. And then if she jumps back, she doesn't jump back all the time, but she can jump back. And so if she jumps back, what happens is you can't target her. If you can't target her, you can't press 3. If you can't press 3, then you don't get your immunity. You don't get your immunity, you die. So yeah, welcome to the Red Guardian show. So yeah, I don't think he can clear this stage quite yet. We are pretty low on time, but yeah, he's a bit lackluster, I have to say. He's definitely better than most combat types that we have. But I would probably put him under Gorilla Man, to be honest. Without his uniform, he's definitely under Gorilla Man. The only advantage he has over Gorilla Man is that he's a villain that turns into a hero. Let's check him out as a hero now. He plays very similarly, so you're not really going to notice much difference. You're just going to notice more damage because of the accumulation. The accumulation is nice. The accumulation is going to give him some value for things like GBR and squad battle, where you rely on all defense down, and he has accumulation and all defense down like Magneto, like other characters, so there is value there for sure. But the problems are still the same. The 5th skill at the end is not an iframe. It's so ridiculous. You have to be very attentive, and you have to pay very close attention. And then because you get the all defense down at the end of the 4th skill, it's just annoying, man. And you just have to sit there and wait for him to kick. And then there's the all defense down, and you can see he kicks. He hits pretty hard, right? I think with like a full team of characters, like a full group with Nick Fury lead and Coulson, I think he can actually go up to stage 50 Proxima without any strikers at all with a CTP of energy. So that's not bad, but you can see he's quite a bit better with his uniform because of that 3rd skill accumulation. It adds a lot of damage to him, and it synergizes really well with the all defense down. But yeah, he's just a bit rough to play sometimes, and risky to play at times as well, because he comes out of iframes mid skill. I really dislike those skills where it kicks you out of iframe but the skill's still going, right? Because it becomes much more inconsistent to play. I like that he has iframes at the beginning of his skills. He has like instant iframes basically, so I like that. And he seems pretty fun to play as far as just like smashing the opponent's face in. He's kind of like a mixture of Juggernaut. Like if Juggernaut and Captain America had a baby. Weird to imagine, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But I'm constantly spamming. You know, as soon as I cast 4, I'm spamming 3. I'm spamming 5. And then as soon as I cast 5, I'm waiting for the iframe to end so I can spam 3. So there's a lot of like really tight rotations. Like right now, I'm you know, waiting to spam 3, and then I'm going into 4, and then I'm waiting to spam 5, because as soon as that iframe ends on 4, you're vulnerable, and you could get clipped by these spears, right? As they're flying by, as they're whizzing by. But yeah, fun to play. Looks cool. Gives you a different sort of feeling. He's not quite Captain America. He's not quite Juggernaut, but at the same time, yeah, these iframe gaps just kill me. These iframe gaps kill me. I really wish he had a little bit more in terms of iframes. Now, you can try to... Oh, no. Yeah, I just took damage. Okay. You could try to play with the iframe on 2. If you really want to make it work with Red Guardian, you can try and play with the iframe on 2 to give you a bit more survivability. Sorry there, Valkyrie. But, you know, you really have to rely on the long iframe on 5, and then the immunity of 4 or 6 seconds on 3. Obviously, something like a CTP of Rage would be even better, because you don't have to worry about when you proc, but, man, I'm saying a CTP of Energy is too expensive for him. A CTP of Rage is obviously too expensive for Red Guardian. If you're wondering what kind of obelisk you should give him, definitely something with crit damage and a proc, or even crit damage, crit rate and a proc, because like I said, he doesn't get any buffs. He doesn't get any stats from any of his skills. He doesn't get those buffs. He has an all attack, all defense buff, but that's all. So anything you can give him. There, I wanted to use the 2 just before the 5, just for some protection. So not bad. He does stage 40 with 1 support with 3 minutes with, you know, with my build, the CTP of Energy. Yeah, it's pretty good. You know, like I said, he's like, you know, among the higher tier combat free to play characters. He's probably not gonna measure up quite as much to like a level 70 Captain America. Actually, you know what? That would be a good comparison. If someone had a level 70 Captain America, or level 60 anyways, Captain America with the endgame uniform or Hydra Cap, that would be a really interesting comparison. I have him tier 3, so I can't downgrade him, but that would be a nice comparison to see how they play in terms of damage. He's got a Rage though, so yeah, it's not bad. He's not a bad character for sure. He's solid. He's got flexibility, which I like, and he's fun to play, but at the same time, I can already see the flaws in his build where I really hate, you know, iframe, and then no iframe at the end. I really dislike that. If they're going to make skills like that, it's better to not have the iframe at the beginning, because not having the iframe at the end forces you into this, like, anxiety-ridden stare down where you're, like, waiting for that final frame of the X to disappear in order to spam that next skill. You end up spamming early or canceling early. You lose damage, inconsistency, yada, yada, yada. And then targeting. Targeting can become an issue, because at the end of the 5th skill, as you'll see, let me just jump into the skill preview real quick. At the end of the 5th skill, he does this shield thing, right? As soon as he lands, and then he does this shield thing. So in that moment where he kicks the shield, it's a cool moment, but they should have made that an iframe, because when he kicks the shield, the enemy can just jump away or iframe, and then you can't cancel into 3, and because 5 is only an iframe, you don't have invincibility or guard hit, you're vulnerable to taking damage. Actually, you know what? I do think he does have... He actually does have... I said he didn't have penetration, but he does have penetration. He has 75% for 3 seconds, and he has ignore dodge. So actually, he's got a pretty decent, like, bevy of skills here on 5. He might be good for Conquest if you build him, like, super tanky. Because if he opens with Guardian Shatter, he could catch some teams off guard and just murder them, like, murk them. And you know what? He's pretty tanky as well because of the leadership with 35% rather than just 30%. That's interesting. But yeah, he lacks healing. I really wish they had given him a little bit of a heal or something, even a heal on a skill rather than a passive heal, or maybe more damage reduction. But yeah, the 7 seconds of immunity are nice. It's just that he has long iframes on 5 and 4. So when are you going to be using the immunity? He's a little bit wonky to play, but he's a solid character for free to play. Definitely one you should work on and build up. I would probably compare him to Molten Man, maybe a little bit less damage than Molten Man, but a little bit more survivability. Molten Man does have the iframe and the paralysis, but his immunity is only a few seconds. But again, it's a really tight rotation with these characters. You need attack speed, and you need to really learn how to play them well and get the timing down. Because if you don't know how to play, for example, Molten Man, you mess up the timing, you mess up the rotation, Molten Man kind of sucks. but if you get the rotation down packed, he's actually quite strong. So yeah, I would probably see him as a more flexible version of Molten Man with just a little bit less damage ramp, because you can't rely on, fire damage leaderships or a fire damage proc to, boost up his DPS massively. So let me know what you guys think of Red Guardian. Hit me up in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.